The rarest fire, they say, isn't born in a volcano but under a damp log, waiting for its chance. I followed the trail, a ribbon of that strange, burning toxin. It's a desperate warning sign. The air felt wrong, unnaturally dry and hot, radiating from the very heart of the stone.
Here we go.
Then I saw it, a flicker of intelligence, burning with fever and absolute terror.
I knew the legends. A fire salamander's fever doesn't just burn the body, it turns the creature into a living furnace.
Its protective toxins were leaking out, mixed with blood. It was already succumbing to the overwhelming heat. I knew the lore. The fire salamander is the spirit of virtue, but its poison is the cost of its fear. No time for fear or philosophy, and I had to create a secure, cool space. The clock was ticking fast. I needed to move with absolute care. One wrong move and that little heart could simply burst from shock. It was barely responsive. I had to use the sedative, risking an unknown reaction against the fire magic. The instant the magic took hold, I moved. There was no luxury of waiting to see if I'd made the right choice.
A salamander needs darkness and cold to recover from a fever. This temporary box was its only chance.
I stood there, exhausted, holding the fate of a mythical flame in a simple, cold, metal box.
This creature, this fire salamander, Ignis, needed more than just a keeper. It needed an entire sanctuary.
This is my commitment, to trust the process, and to give this wounded flame a fighting chance to live.
Back at the sanctuary, the first priority was securing the container and running a diagnostic scan.
Trust the process.
The good news, the cooling ward worked, stabilizing its internal temperature just below the critical threshold.
After fluctuating from 40.
Is a real reminder the only bar for Udis. Today we'll talk about how to achieve academic and career success.
Okay, it's not going to explode. The toxin level is still elevated. It's still a threat.
The priority shifted, constructing a permanent habitat that could handle both fire magic and sudden fever spikes. I installed the heart of the habitat, the volcanic hearth, our dedicated elemental zone for fire magic.
The next zone was critical, the moss den, a cool, humid space to feed and manage its natural temperature needs. And finally, the hidden retreat, a safe, dark space far from the heat, essential for any stressed amphibian.
But an emergency habitat isn't enough. I needed an emergency cure if the fever returned, and it will.
It spoke of a misty crystal, the ancient countercharm, capable of draining heat from elemental chaos. Luckily, I had one, a perfect misty crystal, our secondary magical source for this intense situation. The care routine began instantly. Clean, cool water, the proper humidity, and zero stimulation.
For the next 48 hours, I barely slept. The fever could return without warning, ending everything.
The hardest thing was waiting. The salamander remained unresponsive, hidden in the darkest corner of the log.
I put a fresh, plump earthworm right at the entrance, hoping the scent would trigger some reaction.
We waited and waited until finally the magma itself gave the first tiny
creature was stirring, sensing the elemental pull of its true home. The fire salamander was stabilizing. Not completely out yet, but a movement, a sign of life, a hopeful step toward the light.
Look at that.
We made it through the first 24 hours. Now, we wait for the eyes to open and the true bonding to begin.
The fever was gone, but the virulence remained. The creature was stable, but its magic was still broken.
For the first time since the rescue, its eyes opened, a glimmer of pure, ancient gold against the black.
Morning, little one.
Took the offering, a small, immediate sign that the physical recovery was finally underway. But the core problem remained. Fear had forced its elemental fire to turn toxic, and I had to reverse that. Solution, the calming azure, was meant to be introduced into its heat source, neutralizing the emotional magic.
The effect was almost immediate. The salamander sensed the change in its element and was drawn out.
Come on, little flame.
It was a test of trust. Its entire being was telling it to seek the heat, but its instinct was screaming danger. Then, it reached the magma stone, the core of its magic, and the two energies finally merged.
The fear was gone. The toxic fire had been purified to its natural, brilliant state.
From then on, the sanctuary was a shared space, my quiet care, and the brilliance of the tiny flame. The immediate threat had passed, but our journey was only just beginning, a lifetime of healing ahead. And as long as the small, pure flame burned inside my sanctuary, I knew I was doing the right thing. Weeks passed into a steady rhythm. The creature, Ignis, grew accustomed to my presence, but not quite my touch.
The hearth with us its comfort.
Yet, a fire salamander needs conflict, a counterbalance. The misty crystal wasn't doing its job anymore.
Not enough counter magic.
The lore demanded I introduce a living counter-element. A creature of ice, a cold heart to meet the flame. It had to be a snow wisp, a creature of pure, living cold, the very opposite of a fire salamander.
The source was in the western reaches, near the glacial streams. A risky, overnight trip, but essential.
I left Ignis a generous feeding, knowing it would likely be asleep by the time I returned. The snow wisp was delicate, a flickering, living particle of ice, pure elemental cold. Back at the sanctuary, the moment of truth, introducing the Glacian wisp to Ignis's domain. Here we go. Be gentle. It flew instantly toward the largest source of heat, a moth to a very specific fire magic flame.
Ignis reacted with a sudden, primal fury, a defensive spike of pure elemental magic.
The two creatures met over the central stone, a clash of elemental opposites that would decide their fate.
Balance.
A truce was forged. The wisp, now contained by the fire's heat, hovered nearby, providing perfect, living cold. The healing was complete. I no longer had a patient. I had a companion, and the world had its flame. And together, in the quiet heart of the sanctuary, we found our new, shared purpose.
The end.
Life settled into a beautiful, complicated ballet of fire and ice. Ignis was now my primary study. The enclosure was a microcosm of elemental harmony. The hearth hot, the moss cool, the air stable. Its health stabilized, its movements became bolder, almost playful. It trusted its environment. The crimson lightning mark, once a sign of fever, began to fade, replaced by a subtle, healthy gold.
The salamander now needed the next step, to reconnect with the wider world, to feel the sun again.
Almost there, friend.
My purpose was fulfilled. It was time to release Ignis back into the protected wild of the sanctuary forest.
He hesitated, looking at me, perhaps one last check of the one who brought him back from the toxic brink.
Go on. You're ready.
And then, a surge of elemental power, a healthy, vigorous pulse of pure fire. He disappeared into the undergrowth, a small, brilliant spark returning to the heart of the forest. Left behind, the empty hearth and the lingering, balanced energy of the Glacian wisp. My work was done, but the knowledge gained was the ultimate reward. The intricate connection between fire, and fear.
A small, brilliant flame lived on, a hidden protector of the wilderness, healed and strong.
The sanctuary remained, ready for the next patient, the next challenge, the next fragile magic in need of a keeper. Weeks turned to months. The sanctuary became quieter, the hum of the systems replaced by the rustle of healthy life. The elemental balance was gone. The wisp had faded, and the magma stone cooled, awaiting its next spark.
I maintained a quiet vigil, but the outside world was always knocking, bringing new needs, new dangers.
The next case was already waiting. Another vulnerable life, another urgent intervention needed.
But I never truly left Ignis. The fire salamander became a hidden, silent ward of the sanctuary.
The scar on my thumb, a reminder of the toxic contact, faded, now just a silver line of commitment.
Every step I took was toward a new mystery, and yet, every step was guided by the flame I saved.
The sanctuary remained, a beacon of quiet hope, its true magic now hidden in the trees. My journeys took me further afield, but the lessons of Ignis were always with me. Balance, patience, and the understanding of inner fear. The scar was a silent contract, a commitment to the fragile magic that exists outside the conventional world. I handled creatures of pure stone, shifting water and living air, using the principles Ignis taught me.
The sanctuary remained my fixed point, my anchor, ready for the day the forest might send another plea.
And sometimes, in the deepest quiet, I felt a gentle push of warmth, a momentary, silent greeting.
A reminder that even in the vastness, the bond of fire and keeper endures, protecting the forest from within.
My life, the sanctuary, and the magic are irrevocably linked. The mission continues. Two years later, the pattern remained, missions outward, centering on the sanctuary's quiet hope. The forest was thriving, the magic stable, but the greatest magic remains hidden, a secret protector.
A deep orange glow, the signature of health, not fever, a fleeting affirmation that he was near.
I smiled. A silent wave back to the little spark of pure flame that brought me balance. Loose. The sanctuary remained, not as a hospital for lost causes, but as a living testament to healing and the deep